Hi, good morning. Lots of you. That's what 100 people looks like. Cool. So I'm up here this morning. Thank you very much for all coming along. I'm here as half of the local fashion label Ingrid Starnes, and I thought that our chat today would be a little bit about some of the things that we've learned in the last 5 years about pretty much from failing, and hopefully as creative professionals and creative enthusiasts, you might be able to see something in there from the things we've found hard that might make life a little bit more easy over your first 5 years in business. So first up, a little bit about the label. We pretty much exist just to try to make beautiful things. So this is a really good example. Swap that over. This is a really good example of something we like to do. It's a collaboration that we did with Xanthi White for Urbis Design Day really recently. You'll see here that the models are dressed in clothing that Ingrid's designed, and that print there is actually something that Ingrid has painted and then we've had made locally for us, so done in New Zealand, and then everything is made in New Zealand. Microphone time. That's kind of what we do inside the label. Ingrid looks after all of the design and production, and then I look after retail, online, sales, and marketing stuff. So that's why I'm up here talking more from the business side today of this creative enterprise. It means that I spend a lot of time thinking about frocks, selling frocks, and a lot more time pretending to be a woman online than I'd ever really expected my life would involve. Over the last couple of years, it's been really nice. We've started to move into each other's worlds a little bit more. So Ingrid has a lot more now to do with the store and is dealing with a lot more of the retail stuff. And we also work together on the fragrance line. So I help to co-design the fragrance and the assets and the campaign and the packaging there, which is something I've really enjoyed. This is our family, so despite my pretending to be a woman a lot of the time, we've managed to have 3 beautiful children, and this is a really important thing for us because really early on in our business, we decided what success looked like, and success for us was being able to have choices for our children and have jobs where we could be really involved in their lives. We were really inspired by Kate and Wayne from Kate Sylvester, and they started out and became a big deal about the same time as Karen Walker had, and they chose not to go down the same route that Karen Walker had of showing in New York because they had a young family, and so they redefined their success as being able to be part of their kids' lives and drop the kids off and pick them up. And we thought that was really inspiring. And so that's very much part of our version of success. So, as I was saying, it's been really interesting the last couple of years to collaborate on projects as well. So, what I could do is I could tell you about our label and I could pick out some successes and I could say, hey, you know, we've been on the Metro list. That's our store there, is the best of. Our perfume is stocked in Monocle stores. We're in Smith & Co. and DFS, and we've got 15 stockists. And you know, I could tell you a bunch of like really carefully selected positive facts. But you know, like when I was asked to talk today, I really wondered about it because to share stories of success, you kind of have to feel that you are a success. But the last 5 years have been really tough, and you know, there's that saying, you fake it till you make it. And it does feel like we've been faking it for a very long time. And so I wondered if it might be an idea to talk, you know, like I could equally stand here and talk about the business and say, I run the world's worst business. It's low volume, low margin. We've got a really expensive product to produce. We've got really powerful and established competitors who know a lot more about what they're doing than we do. We've got a shrinking market, like not many people are going, hey, let's make clothing in New Zealand. It's a hamster wheel, so it's this extraordinary thing where you make a whole range of clothes, you go out and sample it all, everything's new every time, and then you sell it and you say, hey, you guys like it, and then a couple of months later, you repeat the entire process and go back out and say, hey guys, everything we made before is old now, here's some new stuff. So it's absolutely bonkers. There's no efficiencies or consistency because everything you make is fresh, so you don't learn how to do things better, and you can't negotiate long-term contracts. You can't scale it. We're dealing with like billions of clothing. We get 300 meters of fabric, and if people like it and it sells out, that's it, forever. So if you have a success, you can't repeat it. It's hard to export because we're on the wrong hemisphere from the rest of the world. It's perishable, so you put the stuff in store, and the idea of our label is that it's beautiful forever. Yet, because of seasons, you have it in store for 2 months at full margin, and then you say to people, it's on sale, buy it, because it's no good anymore, because now new stuff's coming in. It's bonkers. It's a very mature market, so it's very hard to innovate anything, particularly interesting in there. And there's non-rational actors. So fashion is full of crazy enthusiasts, example A, and it means that people are in it for reasons that are not rational. So you can't expect that, you look around and you go, how are all these people in business? And then they go out of business and you go, right. I wondered why they were doing stuff that we can't make work and were working, because they're not. So it's a very, very unusual industry. And so today I really wanted to talk about a bit of that honesty. So, especially in fashion, because it's such a perception business, you never go out and say, we're a very premium kind of price point. And you don't go out and go, hey, we're kind of making it up and struggling. You go out and say how wonderful everything is, So anyone but the only reason that we are here after 5 years is because, it's been really hard, but we've been bailed out by friends. At times we've owed a lot of money. It's been very, very stressful. We've been outside payment terms with the people who supply us. People in the industry, the local industry, they help to support people to get them off the ground, and that's great generosity. Our staff, one of the reasons that things have turned around is that we've got such good staff at the moment, but they have to work very hard for us because things have been difficult. And anyone who has owned a business and has been through hard times will know what it's like to be scared of the letterbox and scared of the phone. And so that can be like the actual reality of this life. So I thought that, for today I'd try and talk about some of the things that we worked out that took us from hell into kind of like... So... one of the things that helped get us off the ground was launching the fragrance, and that kind of changed our business and got us out of a business that was only doing something that was very hard and had something new in it. After the 5 years, the business is doing better, which is really nice. We're now doing things like doing more than breaking even, which is something I'll get to in a minute. And there's a lot of hope again. So I thought I would share some of these things so you don't end up in this situation where you are just shoveling money and time and energy into something that hurts you. So, we're going to be talking about the money side of stuff, and that's really hard in creative things as well, because it's crass and it's gross, and when you start a creative endeavor for proper artistic and things you care about, you don't start it to be making money, and it's not always kind of seen to be like business is quite a dirty word, especially in New Zealand. Like National Party supporting businessmen is, pretty much the worst insult you can throw in some circles. So, not saying I'm National Party supporting, but it's very much associated with being right-wing and callous and the like. But it's really important to think about some of these business fundamentals if you want to have room to be creative and not be stressed and struck down by this debt. So thought we would share some of these lessons quickly. So the first thing is kind of thinking about your business, or is it an art project? So, you know, when you start off, often you're just thinking about breaking even and being able to produce the goods, but you're not thinking about the structure of what you're doing. So when we started out, it was really important to us that we did everything here. So these are pictures from the dyers and from the screen printers, and that's Poppy, who's the dog of a company that made a lot of our clothes at the beginning. As a result, you know, like, we have a business where we could introduce you to anyone who is working on our clothes. Like, that's Terry. So Terry makes the, he's on a letterpress and he makes our swing tags at Johnston Press. And that's Nolene, who made a lot of the clothes in the beginning. There's a bit of Facebook philosophy that I quite like, which is every dollar you spend is a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. And that's something that was like really important to us. Normally that would come and it would be kind of like cross-stitched or something on Instagram. But it's true, you know, it's a bit whack, but it is true. We've been very lucky because of our values. We've had amazing support. So the suppliers, like I was saying, have really helped us get off the ground. And also the media. So Viva, especially kind of their editorial team, have been amazingly supportive to what we do and told a lot of these stories out there of what we're doing. And but you know, with an idea and with support, it still is quite structurally difficult. So this T-shirt here, which is called the Clara, is one that we've made in one of our prints. So by doing a print in New Zealand, it costs about an extra $20 a metre on top of your fabric costs. So you're looking at a T-shirt that has hard costs of about $40, and then you pay someone a living wage to make it for you. Then we wholesale it, so you put a margin on there, and then they sell it in their stores, doubling it again. So that T-shirt ends up being $150 something, which is quite a lot of money. And so your values can lead you to a point where your stuff is like objectively quite expensive. So you have to work out, like, what are we doing in the business that's going to allow us to do this? Does this exist in today's world? The reason we've got there is that, you know, in New Zealand, we've decided as a society that we want to have labour laws and environmental laws, and we have like the printing on that shirt, for example, is expensive because there are wastewater requirements, and if you use water and you put it out and you've dyed things with inks that are often really toxic, that has to be protected and looked after, and the people working there have to be looked after, and they have ACC and healthcare and all these things that we as a society have decided is good. But then what we do is we import shit from overseas, and so we're a very unusual group of people in that we as consumers have demanded that we have eggs that have a classification system that can let you know whether they're free range, and then above that you can know whether the SPCA has inspected them and whether they're lying or not about being free range. But with clothes, it's very hard to know whether things have been made well, and you have to do a lot of research, and you can't walk into a Kmart and get like A, B, C or D rating on the clothes you're buying, which is really weird. We're kind of like willfully blind about this. So cotton, for example, in Uzbekistan at the moment, they're one of the world's biggest producers. A lot of it's done with child labour. Cotton is like it's a very water-intensive crop. It takes a lot of pesticides. You've got to bleach it with chlorine. All of this stuff is happening downstream, and we willfully just kind of ignore it. People are expecting dresses for $20, and the world's changed, you know, so people are happy to spend $20 on a smoothie. And the thing is, like, this might all be right, but no one cares. Like, so we've worked out that you can't build a business on the back of a rant. So it doesn't matter if you, like, educate people, it doesn't matter what you're doing, like, just being right is not enough to get through. So you've got to think really hard, like, is it an art project or is it a business? So following your values does not necessarily mean, if you're not also following business fundamentals, that you're going to have a good time of it. So a couple of ideas that really helped us turn around from happy artistic naivety into not being in trouble. One was this idea that you have to have profit at the heart of what you do. So when you start out as a creative professional, you don't start out, I imagine, we didn't, to do the books or to do admin or to, like be your own bookkeeper. But that's what you are if you start out and you haven't worked out a way that you want profit to be at the heart of what you're doing, so you can be profitable enough to hire a bookkeeper or hire an accountant or get good advice. And so often as creative people, you just set out and you go, if I do this and do this and do this, we'll break even. But breaking even is actually falling behind, because if you make one wrong decision, and you will, because that's the nature of being brave and trying things, you make mistakes, you go backwards. And if you haven't factored in profit, then you've got no reserves. And so next thing you know, you're in debt and you can't do all the things that you got into being creative and wanted to do. So it seems kind of gross, but you have to think from day one, like, how do I build profit into what I'm doing? And that is what you're hoping to be doing. And that's creative freedom, not having to be behind the eight ball, being able to do what you like. The next thought is to get off the hamster wheel. So we in fashion are very much in a hamster wheel, but there's lots of ways that you're able to kind of move out. So we launched a skincare and fragrance and these kind of items, mainly because it was something that we really loved, but then it's also something that you can build on and get better at and learn from and make something that improves. And then you can do better and more interesting things around the edges. So you can do more exciting artist collaborations, and you can have lovely campaign images, and you can do all of these things to keep it exciting and interesting that allow you to be properly creative rather than just servicing the day-to-day business as usual requirements of having a fashion label. I went to work about halfway through my time doing the label at Vend, which is a local software company. And that became really influential to me, because the software company thinking of do, learn, do, and iterating and celebrating mistakes. I'd come from a background of reporting, old media, TV production, and traditional advertising. And in all of those realms, which are creative realms, if you make a mistake, you make a bad show, you make a bad campaign, you write something bad, you just never talked about it again, and you all pretended it hadn't happened, and you moved on. And it's a very difficult way to actually get better and learn and evolve if you're not going to kind of like really look into what you've done and find out how you can get better. And so brought a lot of that thinking of like, okay, well, how can we do retrospectives and learn from what we've done and keep moving forwards? And that's, there are TED Talks about it and the like, this idea that software thinking is eating the world. And it's absolutely true. It applies everywhere. So yeah, how can you think to get off a hamster wheel? The thing with capitalism is that it's great if you're an owner and terrible if you're a worker. But when you're the owner and the worker, it's both great and terrible. And you have to be really you have to wonder if you're just selling hours, and capitalism, the system we're working within, is about the exploitation of the worker. Who are you exploiting? Yeah? I'd get to like 2 in the morning some days, and I'd been working in an agency in the day and then doing freelance projects at night, and then I'd get to do the accounts for the fashion label at 2 in the morning, and I'd think, man, my boss is a dick. He's this workaholic nut, like being self-employed is bad. And you really have to think, like, if you're only selling your hours, how can you ever scale that? And how can you ever get past just servicing your day-to-day bills? So it's about thinking, how can you bring something into what you do that can be standardized and put out to someone else? And all kinds of businesses can do that. Lots of designers have found great success with making Shopify themes and the like, so that you get a passive stream of income from one bit of work. Like, why do the same amount of work every time when you can do the work once and get paid for it many times? And it's just having little bits of your business that have that thing that can help you move. And a thing that was really influential with that was a friend of mine, Scrap Wall, who's an artist, who's now over in Sydney. I was talking with him about what he was up to, And he said he was trying to make a Chuck Taylor or a Ray-Ban. And he was like, I want to make something that is a classic and that can go high and can go low and can be worn in all kinds of occasions and can last for 50 years and that people will love. And he's like, pretty much as a thought experiment, he was like, if I can make something that's good for now, why can't I make something that's good forever? And it was a really interesting way to look at the world. And, you know, can you make a Chuck Taylor? Can you make a Ray-Ban? Why can't you? You're all awesome. So that's kind of like something to introduce into the thinking. Cool. Here's kind of a grunty, some just very pointed advice that's helped us that I've got along the way. There are 3 things that will kill your creativity: debt, overheads, and negativity. So what I say by like having a nice life is not just being able to buy $20 smoothies and Lamborghinis. It's about having those choices to change what you do and try new things and open new collaborations and be brave with things, not just do what you're already doing. And to have the room to move, you need to be nimble, which means not too committed to a structure or to your debts. So debt is the thing that will kill you. It's a very simple downward cycle. If you get into debt, it eats your cash flow. Overheads are the absolute killer of cash flow, and next thing you know, you're in hell. Which may seem oversimplified, but I think if anyone has been through that cycle, that's pretty much it. So overheads are a real danger. Like even putting on a cell phone bill every month, you know, that can end up being the thing that tips you over. Like, is there any way that you can just not commit to being any debt you cannot take on? It just has to be avoided. Especially when debt is easy, you know, when you're like, wow, I'll just do this and then I'll get to there. And it's not always that easy. Please avoid negativity. So this is a really big one, and I found this from a mentor who went and saw a lot starting the fragrance, Dion Nash from Triumph and Disaster. And we were talking about people, because as a small business owner, or as a small kind of creative enterprise, your biggest investment and the biggest decisions you will make will be your first employees and the people that you work with. And they are the biggest thing that you will ever do in your business. And the most important things that he was suggesting that I found rang really true were no buzzkillers, no know-it-alls, and no martyrs. And outside of that, the only thing you're looking for is good energy and the ability to learn. So, you know, like sector experience, really knowing something is not as important as being like positive. And when you're doing a creative enterprise, you're actually doing the impossible. Like you're doing something that hasn't been done and you're setting up by yourself. You need people who believe in that and are really with you and totally are on board with the mission. You can't have someone who's just like turning up to eat their lunch. And so it's that good energy and that ability to learn. And so, yeah, one of the reasons that we've gone from shh to like shh is that our staff are really good, and that's the biggest thing that you can surround yourself with. That idea about mentors as well. So if you can find someone who's already been through the steps you're just about to go through and then listen to them, that can really help you. So I used to work for Murray Crane. And Murray is a very, very determined business person. For example, the other evening, we were at his store launch for Gubba Mackie. He's just opened in Vulcan Lane. And he mopped the floors 3 times at the end of the function because the first 2 times there were still streaks. And so he's a very successful business person. He's got a number of stores around the place, but he still cares about those details, and he's still a very dedicated kind of person. And the advice he gave me when I went to him, it was kind of mean. It had a lot to do with like getting rid of staff we had, and it seemed to be for the kind of business that we weren't. And if I'd listened to everything he said when I first went to him, because 2.5 years later, we ended up doing everything that he said, and life got a lot better. So you go and see a mentor who's been where you've been and then really follow them. And the same thing goes with advice. So not everyone has to be a mentor, but you really have to seek out experts. There's a quote that I saw on a real estate billboard, and before this business thing, most of my quotes would have been like Oscar Wilde or something, but now they're real estate billboards, and it said, if you think it's expensive to hire a professional, try hiring an amateur. And it's totally true. Like, if you go to someone who really knows what they're doing and listen to them, it works out. So we launched the skincare, and I went to Rapid Labels, who are the best label people in the country, and they make all the wine labels. And I said we wanted to do this, and they said, okay, well, you should do it with a plastic label. And I said, no, because our products they're not made with plastics. That's the whole point. They're all natural. There's no petroleum in them. Can't have plastic. And they're like, yeah, but plastic labels are really going to be the ones you need. And the paper labels were beautiful, like really beautiful. So I pushed through and said, no, this is really important to us. Turns out I'd tested the labels for how a person might use them personally. But if they sit in a store and people pick them up and down all day, the oils on your skin cut through the moisture guard really quickly, and they end up being grubby and looking like shit. And if they look like shit, no one will buy them, and then you go, rrr. So we now have all of these labels that we're having to put inside boxes with like a warning sticker that says, you know, these are made of paper. It was important to us because of the renewable nature. Just be careful you don't go into too steamy a bathroom with them, which for bathroom products is pretty ideal. But it'll work out because we're able to spin that story around it. But now we're having to make plastic labels for the next lot. But, you know, listening to advice, you can skip that stage. Right, this was the idea that probably turned us around more than anything else, which is for every dollar you spend, you have to make 3 back. It took us a long time to get here. It might not seem very complicated, but it really helps you focus on what you should be doing. So by the time that you have, this is very good maths and business philosophy, you probably haven't seen this anywhere else. By the time you've spent $1 and you then have to make it back, you've got the cost of making the good, the cost of selling the good, and the dollar you first spent. So that's $3 just to break even. And if we go back to that first point, you don't want to just be breaking even or else you're going backwards. For every dollar you spend, you really need to make $4 back. So when you go to spend something, you have to be really determined and think, do I have enough profit in the business to manage the spending, or will locking this in ever be paid back by what it does? And if you stick to that viewpoint for a while, that your spending has to get back at least $3 to $4 for every dollar you spend, then you'll go forwards. And you know, it's just about breaking out of a break-even mentality. Cool. And as the last thought, something that's helped is like, you know, sometimes when you're going and things seem to be going well, and you know, people like your products and you're getting new stockists and stuff, you think you've kind of got it kind of worked out to some degree, but then you look back and you go, actually, there are a lot of things missing. And so you can sometimes miss the failure step if you spend a bit more time at that scoping out step and test those assumptions and just think, as the only constant in all my problems, could the problem be me? Which is true more often than I'd like to admit. Cool. So that's the end of the rant. The idea that it would be really cool to take away is that, you know, you will be a happier creative and more able to be brave and nimble and do the things that got you into a creative industry if you do worry about the crash stuff. Cool. Thank you.